farcical. At the same time, he had a smile that most women found irresistible. Holding his tall hat in his right hand that had just been given to him by one of the footmen, he stood gazing at his horses. He was thinking that they were the best buy he had ever made, all pitch black except for a white star on their foreheads and a faint touch of white on their back fetlocks. They were not only unusual, but magnificent. The Duke put on his hat and started to walk down the steps. As he did so, the crowd pressed themselves even closer against the gold-tipped railings, and the children put their hands through them to point at the horses. They were waiting there as excited and expectant as their elders to see the team drive off. Without hurrying, the Duke seated himself in the driving seat and picked up the reins. The groom accompanying him then jumped into the small seat at the back of the chaise, and as the butler and 4 footmen bowed, his Grace moved off. Instinctively, as if they could not stop themselves, the crowd now cheered and clapped. The chaise reached the gate, and the horses passed through it, and the crowds cheered again. By this time, more people coming up the street had increased the crowd, and the Duke raised his hat to them as he passed, and they cheered him again. Then he was moving with an experienced hand through the traffic, and when he reached Hyde Park Corner, he turned right. By now he had settled down to enjoy the long drive to Windsor Castle that lay ahead of him. Only when he was out of London and leaving the houses behind him did the Duke begin to wonder again, as he had when he had received the letter last night, why Her Majesty Queen Victoria had asked for him. He had been at Windsor Castle only a week ago, as he had been running 2 of his best horses at Ascot. Out of politeness, he had called on Her Majesty, and she had been delighted to see him. Yet, after they had talked on various subjects, she had not appeared to want him to do anything at all special for her. Therefore, his sudden summons to come as soon as possible to Windsor Castle had been a surprise. He was always welcome there, because Her Majesty liked to have young and handsome men around her, and the Duke in particular was one of her favourites. But he had the feeling, when he read the letter Her Majesty's secretary had written to him, that she was going to ask him to undertake a special task for her. What it could be, he had no idea, but he decided it was a waste of time to speculate. So he concentrated on driving his horses once they were out of the London traffic, more quickly than he had ever driven before. Oswald was right, he told himself, when he said these were the best horseflesh he had ever possessed. I'm sure he will miss them. He could understand that his friend Lord Longlow had been reluctant to part with such an outstanding team, and the Duke had felt it was almost cruel to take them from him. But he had learned that Lord Longlow's eldest son had run up a huge gambling debt, and it was a question of parting either with the horses or with some of his collection of pictures, and these he prized even more than his stable. He had asked a considerable sum for the horses because he needed the money, and the Duke had paid him willingly, not only because what he was now buying was exceptional, but because he was fond of their owner and was glad to help him. He thought that his son had behaved disgracefully, and not for the first time. It merely made him repeat what he had said so often, not just to himself but aloud, that he was glad he was not married. I have no intention of marrying, he told himself now as the horses were moving even faster, and it was no use grandmamma, when she comes to stay tomorrow, wasting so much time when we might be talking about the past, begging me to take a wife. He was now 27, and his family had a long time ago decided it was essential that he should marry and produce an heir to his ancient title, his vast estates, and his incredibly valuable possessions. The Duke had been an only son, and there was no near relative to inherit. Yet, although he had no intention of dying, if he could help it, the family invariably behaved as if he would soon pass away, and there would be no one to take his place, or, rather, as they thought of it, his throne. Of course, the head of the family, and it was quite a large one, was a tremendous stature. The Sherbournes